This is FBG Jen.
And FBG Kristen.
And I'm FBG Margot, host and producer. You're listening to the podcast that will help you keep a lid on the junk in the trunk and inspire you to live a happy and confident life.
Each episode, we chat with motivational experts and celebs and share our own candid adventures in being healthy.
If you're looking for a podcast that's equal parts hilarious and enlightening, well then welcome to the Fit Bottomed Girls podcast.
Welcome back to the Fit Bottomed Girls podcast. This is FBG Margot, and on the line today we have FBG Jen.
What up?
And we have FBG Kristen.
Aloha.
Aloha! I love how you do something new each time. So, Kristen, please tell us about our guest today because you've met her before and you said we need to have her on this show. She is now on the show, so talk about Austine.
Yes. So there was a reason for my aloha, and that is because I met Austine in Maui. So she is an artist, and the reason I met her is, full disclosure, she creates art pieces for Maui Gym Sunglasses, which is where my husband works and which is why we were in Maui at the same time at their sales meeting. And like, she's quite a big deal. But the first time I met her, we just sat down across the table from her and started talking. And eventually my husband sort of nudged me and let me know who she was. And I immediately got kind of nervous. But she was so lovely. And, so she is in her 70s, which you would never know to meet her. But I mean, aside from just looking fit and young and happy and vibrant, she has this energy that is just, it's wonderful. It's really kind of enveloping. So I think that when I first met her, which was a year and a half ago, I was like, ooh, I should have her on the podcast. And then we kind of got booked out for a long time. And then I saw her again this past December. And I was like, okay, let's please make this happen. Talk to me about your schedule. Because I just think it's really cool. She's not like this lifelong athlete who's just continued it on. She battled a lot of the same fitness struggles and body insecurities and things like that, really, into her, 30s, 40s, 50s. And she started running at a later age than I think a lot of people think is when one would start running. So it was super cool to talk to her about that. And she and her husband, they do vacations where they go biking around Italy, and she works with her trainer all the time. And I mean, she's fearless. I love it. I want to be her when I grow up.
Yeah, Kristen's right. She didn't really start working out seriously until her 50s, and she joined this program, and they were measuring the progress of a group of men and a group of women, and she just got like really into it in her 50s, and she's doing it 20 years later, and she's so inspiring, and she's got such a youthful energy about her, and she's so curious about the world. And I really love this interview. You guys are gonna love her so much. So one of the things I wanted to ask you both, what advice would you give your younger self? Who wants to go first?
I can go. Is that okay?
Yeah.
I feel there is a lot I would want to tell my younger self, but I think in a nutshell, it all pretty much boils down to, you know what, like, girlfriend, like, you are okay, like, exactly as you are. Because I feel like you do get a lot of messages when you're younger that are like, just be you, like, it's great to be you, and you're unique and you're an individual. But that doesn't resonate as much with me. That always seems a little bit like, I don't know, like, it's true, but it almost feels a little bit more hollow.
Yes.
Than something like, no, like, you as you are have inherent value and worth, and you don't need to do anything else. Like, you need to be a nice person, but like, you don't need to excel or be perfect or look a certain way or dress a certain way or anything to have value. You have value just as you are. That's pretty much what I would have done. That would have saved me a lot of heartache and time and dieting. I mean, it gets to the root, I feel like, of relationships and dieting and body image and self-worth and value and makeup. And I mean, all those kinds of coming of age struggles, which don't entirely go away. It's still kind of a message I have to give myself every once in a while when I'm trying to strive or find myself, comparing myself to something else. It's like, oh no, honey, it's cool. You're good. You're good as you are. What about you, Kristen?
Well, same thing in that there are about 20 different things that I would just like to even start off telling myself, and then it would delve into everything else I've learned over the last however many years. I think the big thing for me is I wish I had known that I was going to find my tribe and that it was going to fit and I wasn't going to have to try so hard, which I think is somewhat in line with what you were talking about. I think a lot of my lack of confidence as a teenager, and I think that this probably holds true for a lot of people, is that I didn't see myself, not just physically, but also in terms of like my sense of humor or just sort of the way I saw the world. I didn't see a lot of that in the media or around me. And that's not bad. You know, everybody does their thing, but it kind of wasn't until I got a bit older and started embracing some of the things that did make me different, some of the jokes that I got that other people didn't laugh at. And I just said, you know what, I'm still going to laugh at this because I think it's funny. And eventually I found people who also laughed. And I was like, oh, cool. And those, you know, I mean, you guys know me, like laughter is such a big part of my life. And I just really enjoy finding humor in so many things. So I wish that I had realized that, you know, it didn't make me some sort of, you know, untouchable weirdo to think differently and to feel differently about things. The things that make me, the things that I'm so sensitive about, or the things that I think are just indescribably hilarious. Like those are some of the things that have created the person who I am today. And I think that person has a pretty damn strong voice, and I have good things to say. And that's one of the nice things about the fact that, you know, we now live in the world of the internet, is that it's in some ways easier to find those people and connect with them. Mm-hmm. But I also, you know, going in a circle here, I have no idea what would have happened if there had been, you know, social media and things like that when I was younger, because I think I could have been a total disaster.
That's
that
totally.
like trying to be something.
Yep.
I think may have just been magnified. I'm not sure. But I also may have found my people and been like, oh no, I'm, you know, that we're weirdos together, and it's okay that we're not weirdos in person together. So I have no idea. But basically, I just wish that I had been comfortable with the things that made me seem a little weird, because those are the things that I really like about myself now. Mm-hmm. What about you, Margot?
I wish somebody had taught me the concept of boundaries when I was in my 20s. That was a big one, that as a young adult, learning how to establish boundaries around myself in just personal relationships and friendships, in work relationships, dating. It's just, they all got kind of mixed up for me. I wasn't kind of raised to be like, no, you're allowed to, you know, when you're raised as a nice Irish Catholic girl on the East Coast, you always have to smile and you have to be pleasant, and you can never seem conceited, or, you know, you can't draw attention to yourself. Like, there's all these dumb rules, and it's really hard to kind of find your way, especially moving to New York where everybody's like loud and stuff. So I wish I had a better concept of boundaries and, you know, established them and also respected them in other people. I think like my 20s were really hard learning how to do that. So I was like, we're going to talk about like what ages feel like. I was thrilled to turn 30, by the way. I was so glad to leave all that crap behind. So that's for me personally. And it's something I'm still working on boundaries and stuff. But I think like that's been a really big adult thing for me.
That is a big one.
It's hard.
Because it is difficult. Like it's difficult. It can be difficult to set boundaries. That's that Terry Cole episode was so great on setting boundaries. Like that is one to go back to again and again. Yeah, I found that when I turned 30, I was very much, I think I kind of like pumped it up. Like, okay, it's a new decade. Like I'm really excited for it, you know, because I had heard a lot of other people be upset about turning 30. Mm-hmm. I was like, no, it's going to be great. It's a new decade and everything. But I actually felt kind of weird when I turned 30. And I've written a little bit about this on Fit Bottom Zen. I was like, what does it mean to be an adult? I think that like when I turned 30, I thought that then like somehow like you're far enough away from college now, you kind of should be a grown up. And I feel more like a grown up now that I'm 37, but there's still days I don't feel like a grown up. So when I turned 30, I was like, I don't feel like a grown up. This is weird. Why am I 30? I mean, I guess I have responsibilities like an adult, but no. So I kind of thought that wasn't real. That wasn't true. I was like, when am I going to feel like an adult? When am I going to feel like I have this shit figured out? It turns out maybe you don't.
I think maybe you don't, like for some people. I think like I kind of have a youngish kind of energy and outlook, which works to my benefit and to my detriment at times.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and it sounds like, I mean, it sounds like from this interview too, you know, if she's 70 and you never know it, like why would a 70-year-old have to sound a certain way?
Right.
You know, why can't a 7-year-old be full of energy and treat life with, you know, the curiosity of like a kid? I mean, that's kind of been one of the coolest things about having my daughter is to see, you know, life through, and it's like any kid, see their life through their eyes and be like, oh my gosh, there is so much to marvel at. It's cool to live in that youthful space and just, yeah. Maybe I need to go back to myself at 30 and also have a conversation to be like, you're never going to feel like an adult. That's awesome. Maybe I need to go back and have my conversation with that with myself now.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's really interesting to see, you know, also like what society has looked at different ages as and how that's changed. You know, because like you look at the Golden Girls, which I always look at the Golden Girls, and you know, I mean, if they reshot that now with women being those ages, you know, we'd have like Sandra frickin' Bullock, you know, in her 50s. Like that is different than how women of really any age were seen when we were young and when we were impressionable and sort of getting an idea of what 30 looked like, of what 40 looked like. You know, when I was growing up, I totally thought like, okay, by 30, you get the mom haircut. And that's that.
Right.
And mom jeans.
Yeah. And, you know, it changes with who you're surrounded with and stuff, I'm sure. But I have friends and training partners and all kinds of people who are aged, you know, from lower, well, I guess probably like low 30s now, maybe a couple of in their 20s, but up to in their 60s who are, you know, incredible. And I love spending time with them. And it's so interesting to get those different perspectives on life from people of different ages. But it's also really nice to be like, okay, I don't have to be a certain thing at any certain age. I certainly didn't think I was going to be who I currently am at 37. Mm-hmm. Oh, shoot, I'm 38. Damn it.
I had a moment where I had to like stop. I'm like, how old am I? Like, I was like, am I 36 or am I 37? I literally just had that moment. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, Jen, I always think of us as being the same age and it's not.
Me too.
Because
we both have birthdays in January. So it's.
And you're both only children. You have a lot in common.
And we both are the same Myers-Briggs.
We are.
Oh, that's right.
And we're the random like unicorns. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like to be special. That was a different test. Yeah.
Yes. That's true.
It's just shining through right now.
Yeah, but bottom line is I just think it's really cool because when I was younger, I looked at, you know, like 40 and just thought, well, I hope that I get everything done that I want to do by then. And now I'm just like, hell yeah, bring it. Like, I can't wait. I'm planning a big bash. I fully intend to be like 2 years more awesome than I am now. There's nothing about 40 that scares me or makes me think I'm going to slow down. And frankly, I feel the same way about 50, although I do realize I may need a new knee by then. But that's fine. I'll just be awesome and bionic, right?
It's so true. And if you think about, I mean, with a lot of like different, like long distance running and stuff like that and triathlons, like late 30s, like you're like women are like, it's like all this base of training you've been doing, like it pays off. I mean, I just PR'd a race by like 3 minutes the other day, and I was like, "What is happening?"
Really?
It was a 4-mile race. I did. It was awesome. The trolley run, the fastest. It was 4 miles. It's mostly downhill. It's like the fastest race you can ever do. That's 4 miles. But yeah, to my times before, I think I did it in like 40-30 one year, and I was really happy about that. One time I ran it with Erin, one of our the other co-founder, and she damn near killed me, and we ran it in like 39 something. But I thought I was gonna die. Like I was like, Erin, you run too fast. I did it in like 37 06 or something this year.
That's
and
amazing.
I've been running for forever. I know. So it's like you get old, like things happen. And if you think about like exercises and muscle memory for things like Olympic lifting and everything, like sometimes, that repetition of getting your form down and doing it right, like that has dividends that begin to pay off when you're older. So it's really cool to know that you can still, make progress and see change, and there's kind of still no limit for what you can do, because really we're kind of like, there's more older people now working out, which is amazing to see. And it's like, I see women at the gym that are in their, 50s, and they're not slowing down.
No.
It's so inspiring.
Yeah, I'm literally right now, I'm pulling up. I did an open water race yesterday, and I'm looking at the results because I wanted to make sure that I'm not a big lying liar. And so there were one or two women younger than me who came in ahead of me. And then there were 3 or 4 in the 50 to 60 range who came in ahead of me.
Wow.
And who with really good times.
Yeah.
So we've got one at 60 to 64 who came in almost 2 minutes ahead of me, which is killer. Like, you just get to, don't let an age, don't let a number, don't let any number define who you are or what you want to do or what you want to accomplish.
Or think you can't start something new or try something different.
I know.
I mean, yeah.
I'm older than you guys. I'm in my 40s. Let me tell you, first of all, 40 is a great birthday. And celebrate the living shit out of it, because it is an accomplishment.
Yes.
And it was in my 40s, by the way, that I started podcasting, and who's going to tell me I can't do that? Who's going to tell me that, that's for the youngsters? Like, hell no. And that's what I'm doing now. And I love being me. I love being in my 40s, and I love you guys, and I love this show, and I love talking to Austine. This is all like a big love fest for me.
Oh.
Same. Virtual hug.
Virtual hug. All right, so let's get right into it today. Our guest today is Austine Wood Comarow, and she's fantastic, and you guys are just going to love her. Here we go. Austine Wood Comarow grew up in post-war Europe, where her father directed the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, which won the Nobel Peace Prize under his leadership. Having lived abroad for many years, she speaks 5 languages fluently. At a crucial point in her artistic development, she discovered that certain transparent materials produce colors when they are illuminated with polarized light and are viewed through polarizing filters. Most of her work since then has been devoted to controlling this phenomenon and creating an entirely new artistic medium. She is also an accomplished painter. We are so lucky to have her on the show today. Welcome to the Fit Bottom Girls podcast, Austine.
Hello, I'm happy to be here.
We are thrilled to have you on the show today. This is FBG Margot, and on the line today we have FBG Kristen.
Hey, guys.
So I'm going to ask you the first question. You grew up in post-World War II Europe, which I find fascinating. Can you tell our audience what your favorite earliest memories were of that time and how it has inspired your art?
Oh, okay. My family moved to Germany in 1950, and I was just starting 2nd grade. And they put me right into a 2nd grade class. It wasn't even the beginning of the school year. It was, everybody else knew each other. Everybody else spoke German. I had not a clue about German. But they were, the first class I remember, they were doing cross-stitching. This was something that in the German school system, they felt was really important for 2nd graders to develop their eye-hand coordination. So boys and girls both were working away at these little embroidery hoops. And I thought it was wonderful. And of course, I don't know if that informed my art, but I certainly have always loved doing things with my hands.
Oh, that's fascinating. So, Austine, one of the first things you shared with me when I've had the pleasure of meeting you a couple of times, and I don't know how it came up, but you shared your age with me, and I was shocked because you are very vibrant and full of energy. So I would have guessed you were solidly 15 to 20 years younger than you are. And you shared with us, you're welcome. And you shared with us earlier that you are turning 76 this year. And
Yes,
you proudly say that you still don't feel like you've fully grown up. what's your secret? What should we all be doing? And I don't mean that in terms of like necessarily like beauty secrets. I mean, you seem just so energetic and vibrant. I want to be like you.
Oh, thank you. That's wonderful. Well, I think part of it is just keeping really interested in learning new things. I mean, that's why I've always felt like, well, when am I going to actually grow up? I don't know about this thing, or I don't know about that thing. And how can I be a grown-up if I don't, know all these things? So I'm always interested in learning new things. And the other part of it, I think, is just keeping very active. I think, well, my trainer keeps saying, use it or lose it, which, so that's a very good motivation to keep doing. And so at least the last little over 20 years, I've been very consistent about working out, running, biking, whatever it is, and also eating fairly healthily. My husband's been a vegetarian for at least 30 years, and although I don't call myself a vegetarian, because if somebody serves me some delicious meat, I'll eat it. But I don't really cook meat at home. We have fish frequently. So I kind of attribute it to being interested in the world, keeping active, and eating right. It's pretty simple.
It seems like it. But so with those workouts that you're mentioning that you've been doing in the past 20 years, I just want to do the math for people. Like that means that's, in your 50s and
Right.
and on. Is there anything that's off limits for you?
I haven't found it yet. Although I guess I'm not going to start rock climbing anytime soon. But I have to say that before about 20 years ago, I had a very bumpy path when it came to fitness. I would get really disgusted with myself. I'd gain weight and I'd go, oh, geez, I gotta do something. And I'd join a gym and then it never feels bad the first time you're doing all these exercises. And then the next day I'd be so debilitated and sore that I'd soon quit the gym. So that was a cyclical thing for probably from my mid to late 30s into my 50s. And then when we moved back here from California to Las Vegas in 1996, I was lucky enough to start a program at the university that was run by a professor, Larry Golding, who was doing a study of exercise and aging. And he had a men's group and a women's group, and the women's group met every day at 11 a.m. and we worked out for an hour, or actually in the beginning it was shorter. And he had these series of very mild progressive exercises. In the beginning, you felt like, well, how can this be help doing anything? It just seems so simple. And we'd conclude every exercise session with a running around the gym. At first, we would run the short sides and walk the long sides and run the short sides, et cetera, until by the end of the year, we were all running over a mile. And I thought, gosh, if I could run a mile, that's pretty cool. So I started, I was no longer able to keep going to this class. So I just started running every day, almost every day. And it was hard to stay motivated because, some days you just don't feel like it. So I kind of made it an art project. Every day I would go out for a run. I would pick up a smooth stone that I found somewhere. And when I came back, I would write the date on it and how far I'd run. And I would put it in a big pickle jar. And after a while, I had these jars filled with these stones with dates on them. And it just felt so motivating that it kept me going.
That's incredible. I love that vision that you're giving us right now, the visual you're giving us about this mason jar. So this pickle jar, excuse me. So yeah. You and I were emailing back and forth, and you were sending me some photos of the workouts you do now, which includes TRX, mind you, which looks badass. So people think, what can you tell people about working out hard when you're over 50? Can you do it?
Absolutely can. I started working with my trainer, Ciro, who is in one of the pictures I sent you. He's amazing. I started working out with him in 2004. So it's been, 14 years now. And he is a genius, but I'm sure there are other trainers that are equally good. I think it's so important to work with a trainer, especially when you're just starting an exercise program and maybe you're a little older. So he never let me do too much so that I would get sore. But his motto is take it slow, but be consistent and persistent. So you can't just jump right into working hard. But I mean, I have over the years. Now I do TRX. I do all kinds. I mean, he thinks up all kinds of things. I'm always doing. But what he never lets me forget is that I need to stretch. I need to foam roll. Especially as you get older, I think your muscles do tend to tighten up. And I think a lot of people who think they can't run anymore because their knees hurt. Well, my knees hurt every once in a while. And then he'll explain to me, well, you know why they're hurting? It's because your muscle, you've been sitting a lot, your quads are tightening up and your calves are tightening up and they're all pulling on your knees and causing tightness in your knees. It's not really the knees that are the problem. It's the muscles surrounding the knees that are making them hurt. So he's been wonderful. He's my guru.
It's really important, I think. I mean, like you said, especially as you age or as you're just getting into things, to find a trainer who knows what they're doing and who's willing to like lead you through that in a way that works for where you are and for your goals. So I love that you've been working with the same person for so long. And it makes me curious, does that lead you to have interest in trying out? I know there are all these different boutique workouts popping up all over. There's, Orange Theory and Bar and different, I know we've got like the tilt cycle here where it, you get on a spin bike, but it tilts to the sides. Which is honestly really fun.
Wow.
But do you go into any of those, or do you kind of stick to the routines that Ciro works up for you?
I'm pretty, I haven't heard of any of those things that you mentioned. So maybe Las Vegas is a little behind the times here. I don't know. But no, I pretty much stick to what he recommends and kind of depend on him to keep me going down the right path. So I focused on my arms for the last year because I go, it's so hot here. I definitely want to be sleeveless. I don't want to just have to wear long sleeves or, whatever. So he takes whatever I say and say, okay, we're going to work on those arms. And it helps.
Yeah. Well,
works.
Let me ask you a follow-up to that, because I really loved your comments on kind of how you got into fitness and what it's meant to you. But of course, as women and just as humans on this planet, there's a certain amount of body image that is just a factor in life. Can you talk a little bit about that and how your workouts either help that, or if they ever feel like they get in the way, and whether that's changed with age?
Oh, gosh, I think so. I've become much more accepting of my body. I mean, I'm lucky enough now in the last maybe 20 years, I really haven't had a serious weight problem. I mean, every once in a while, I'll gain a little weight, but it's not how it looks that bothers me. It's how I feel. So I think I've learned to pay attention to how I feel rather than what I see in the mirror. I mean, that's one of the great advantages of getting older. I think you start to realize what's really important, and it certainly isn't what advertising and tells us our bodies ought to look like. I mean, that's ridiculous. So I luckily don't really pay attention to that anymore.
That's great.
In fact, I don't know if you've, through the years, I've developed this style of art in my drawing. It's not necessarily in the work that I do with polarized light, but of these figures that have very small heads and kind of larger, majestic bodies. Because even when I was younger, I realized that I thought we paid way too much attention to our minds, but we didn't realize that our bodies were important. And so I would put more emphasis on the body being sort of majestic and important, and the head being, kind of less important.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you about that. And I want to, and sorry, Margot, I'm totally just like
Go for it.
jumping in on your turn. What really drew me to, you've been doing this for a long time, but you were doing this fan art drawing challenge.
Yeah.
And you did a Wonder Woman inspired sketch. And, I really, really love Wonder Woman.
Uh-huh.
So, and you provided your description, which is along the lines of what you just said. Said, I tried to render Wonder Woman as one of my small-headed figures with monumental body. I've developed that figure style over the years because I think we all put way too much emphasis on our intellect, neglecting our gut feelings and sheer physicality of our being. And you did that again with Cinderella, saying that you like to de-emphasize the head and facial features in order to focus more on the physical body and body language. I also like to counter the stereotypical sexy body shape that's so unrealistic. Which, I mean, just whoa. And I think, I believe that you've said that we can run one of those images in the show notes so people can see that, which will be really cool. So I'm curious, I mean, you said that you sort of noticed that when you were initially starting out in your art. Was there ever an aha moment for you that led you to be like, oh, this is a style that reflects everything that I want to say? Or did it really just grow and become what it is?
Kind of grew and became what it is, because along with that idea that we put too much emphasis on our intellect and not enough on our body and our relationship to the earth and to our planet, my art often was more focused on the natural world, flowers, plants, animals, birds. And whenever a human being appeared in my artwork, it would be sort of abstracted, like these figures that had the smaller heads and the larger bodies, and they wouldn't have much detail in them at all. It was sort of like I wanted to express the idea that we're sort of latecomers here on this planet, and we're still not fully integrated the way we should be into the way nature works. So I guess it just kind of grew slowly with those ideas.
So I wanted to go back to the cycling. You were talking about cycling before, because I'm a cyclist, and you have traveled all over the world by bike. What are your top recommendations for a person like me a place I should visit via two wheels?
Well, first of all, I would recommend, I don't know if I can do this shameless commercial. I have nothing to gain by it, but Vermont Bike Tours, vbt.com, does awesome groups that you can sign up with. We've been on 4 with them to Italy, and they take care of everything. So you really don't have to worry about, they provide the bikes, they provide the helmets, the water bottles, everything, and have wonderful tours. Anyway, they are a wonderful group, and I couldn't speak more highly of them. And if you want to go on a tour, and the people you meet on those tours are so wonderful too. Everybody's very active and interesting, and you see a country so much more intimately when you're on 2 wheels.
I agree.
Yeah. So my husband and I just aren't the type that want to get on a bus and have somebody talking at us, and you feel so removed. So anytime we travel, we try to do something that's active, like a bike tour.
So has that been your favorite place to...
That's the favorite. Yeah. In fact, you said all over the world. That's not exactly true. It's so far it's been mostly Italy, because the first one was so marvelous. It was on the coast of Tuscany, and oh my gosh, the food is so fabulous, and you bike all day, so you come home and you feel at total liberty to eat whatever you want. You don't feel like you're going to gain weight or anything. It's just fabulous. So that was so wonderful that we just couldn't imagine that it would be better anywhere else. So we just looked at every tour that they had in Italy. I don't know which one we're going to go on this year, but we try to do, one every couple of years.
I hear Ireland's amazing.
Yeah, that should be good too. Maybe that's on the docket.
Yeah. I wonder, as an artist, can you offer some insight into your creative process? Is it something that you cultivate in a specific way daily, or is it really just kind of there?
Well, I have to say that when I was younger, I was much more motivated in maybe not a very good way, but it did kind of keep me focused on improving my skills. I think when you're younger, you're so anxious to prove yourself and to become the best at whatever you've selected to do that, I rarely went anywhere without my sketchbook, and I constantly felt like I had to, create something every day or my day was wasted. And it produced a lot of good work, I think. But as I got older, I realized that I need to just sort of experience things and not always feel like I have to be the observer, thinking about it and drawing it or making art out of it. Sometimes just taking it in, and maybe later it'll come out as artwork. So I feel a lot more relaxed about what I do now. And if, a day goes by that I'm not creating something, it doesn't bother me like it did when I was younger. Actually, I've created a business in a way with my art where I create artwork for Maui Jim sunglasses. And I have 4 or 5 people working with me on that. So to an extent now, my creativity is expressed in helping these other people help me and have jobs that are satisfying to them, and is, creating something that is valuable to the world.
I was looking at your bio, and you have said before that your art, much like a movie, is watched rather than looked at. Can you talk a little bit about that, what you mean by that?
Yeah, I think not the work that I've done for Maui Jim, but some of my other artwork is created with polarizing filter and clear cellulose that when you rotate one of the filters, it causes all the colors to change. And I can create images that actually change color and form as it's sitting there on the wall. So it's not a video, it's just plain a mechanical, change that happens. But as you watch it, it's slowly changing. And so that's more like you have to pay attention to it for several minutes before you realize what's going on. Whereas, most artwork in a museum, you can walk by it and in 2 seconds you've seen this, you've seen this, you've seen that. I think they've done studies where the average amount of time that people look at a piece of art in a museum or a gallery is like 3 seconds or something crazy like that. But you would never see what's going on in my work if you only gave it a 3-second attention span. You have to look at it for at least 15 to 30 seconds, which is a surprisingly long time.
Yeah. Now, with that in mind, how long does it take you to create a piece from really like very initial start to end?
Well, it kind of depends on the piece, but sometimes just the thinking about it ahead of time is a long process. And then maybe, initial sketches, and then I usually do a very complete drawing. And I think all those stages probably take as much time, if not more, than the actual cutting out of all the little pieces that have to be cut out and placed to create the image itself. So it's hard to say. I tend to work rather slowly, where I now have my daughter helping me, and she has been working with me now for over 30 years, I think. And since the design has been created by me, she doesn't have quite as much thinking to do when she executes them for me. And she's really fast.
Well, that's awesome. Teamwork.
It is. We work together really well. Even though she's in New York, but she's moving out here in November. They've bought a house right near us, and I'm bringing her into the whole family business.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah, it really is. I'm excited about it.
Are there any other art forms that you want to try out that excite you, that interest you, or any new artists that interest you right now?
Oh, art forms? Yes, I love I love art supplies. I love any kind of art form, and one of the benefits I think of my daughter moving out here and taking over a lot of the work that I do for Maui Jim is that will free me up for a little more experimentation and things that I haven't tried before. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I mean, I've just discovered that iPad Pro and the Apple Pencil is amazing. So that's really kind of high tech, but that I can take anywhere. It's so wonderful. You can, you don't have to take a whole trunk full of art supplies. You got this thing that, so easy to carry around. I love it.
What advice would you offer someone who is, let's say, not an artist and really without much artistic ability, but with interest in playing with colors or paints or things like that? Do you have any advice for, what to do, how to start, I'm not even sure what I'm asking. And I would like to say I'm asking for a friend, but this is totally for me. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I have a little watercolor set and I have so much fun with it. So I would love to, I don't know.
Go for it. I mean, just play. I think the most important thing is to experiment with it, to see what the medium wants to do. I mean, look at what other people are doing in watercolor. Find some artists whose work you admire and who you sort of aspire to look like, but don't try to imitate them right away. Just try to see what the watercolor itself will do. I mean, you want to actually develop your own style, so you're never going to look like anybody else's. In fact, there was somebody, I can't remember who said this, but said, if it looks like art, then it's not your art, or something like that. You want something that looks like you, not like something you've seen before. But I guess that may not be a very satisfying answer, actually. And, there's lots of tutorials online now. You can just go to YouTube and look up, beginning watercolor, and you can find any number of people willing to sort of demonstrate ways to do it. And you can just find one that appeals to you and imitate, or, follow along. And it's a great way to learn things. Boy, I don't know. We never had that when I was young.
No, whole different world.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So with your daughter moving out there and taking more of over the Maui gym business, or just a little bit more of that, do you have travel plans? Do you have any dream destinations you'd like to check out now that you have a little bit more free time?
Yeah, not quite sure. We're sort of playing it by ear. We've had some ideas of maybe getting some sort of a travel trailer and going for like a month in the summer somewhere that's cool, because it's really hot here in the summer. I would love to get away from the heat and just, explore someplace. We've spent quite a bit of time in Santa Fe. I love that city. So, I'd love to be able to spend a little more time there, and places like Jackson Hole and just beautiful landscape areas of the country. I suppose I would take some more bike trips too. That is always something I want to do.
All right. Well, we have one question that we ask everyone at the end of our show. And if you are ready, I would love to ask this of you.
Okay.
And that is, what is the last song you listened to before you joined us for this interview?
Oh, gosh. You know what?
It's a tough one, I know.
That's going to be a very hard one to answer, because unlike my daughters and grandkids who are into music like crazy, I am more of a silence person. And I like working in silence, although we do play music in the studio, and I'm trying to think what's been played lately. My office is out a little bit separate from the main studio area where my assistants work, and I keep my office pretty much quiet. I don't listen to music. So I feel a little guilty about that. Somehow I feel like guilty. It's an art form that I have neglected, but I feel like I need to think my own thoughts when I'm working.
I think that's a fair and actually probably a more well thought out answer than a lot of the songs. So yeah, I think that's great.
Thank you so much for being on the show today. You were wonderful.
Well, it was much easier than I thought it would be. So thank you very much. You guys are wonderful. You made it very comfortable for me. Thank you.
Love this show? Tell us why in a 5-star review on iTunes, and we'll read it on the air. Also, make sure you are a subscriber. If you want to reach out to say hi or have a question about a recent episode, yay, Well, feel free to email us at podcast@fitbottomgirls.com. And if this podcast jives perfectly with your brand, consider sponsoring the show. Get more info by emailing advertising@fitbottomgirls.com. Find all kinds of Fit Bottom goodness online and on social media at Fit Bottom Girls, Fit Bottom Mamas, Fit Bottom Eats, and Fit Bottom Zen. And if books and movies are your thing, check out the other podcast I co-host called Book versus Movie, which you can find anywhere where you search for podcasts. Thanks for listening.